I'm Dennis Neal here with Diane Diamond. I'm glad you could be with me today, Diane. And we've now got an interview coming up with Congressman Marsha Blackburn, and she does prefer congressmen, so I am not being guilty of any kind of offense there.
I was thinking maybe you were a little sexist there, but no.
Thank you for being with us, Congressman Blackburn, and we have a bite we want you to listen to, and this is regarding the EPA and the bold new plans of the Obama administration to cap factory emissions even more tightly. And EPA Administrator Gina McCarthy had this to say, if you'll give a listen.
And we want the facts too, Senator. We want this investigation to take place, and we want this young man to get healthy in Germany and back home as well. But again, to the point of Bo Bergdahl and the attacks on Bo Bergdahl, so many of them, including right here on CNN, are coming from his fellow soldiers. And just to be clear, most of these soldiers, by the way, say it is right and correct that he was freed from the Taliban. What they are most upset about is the idea that some people are lionizing Bergdahl. They were upset that he was called a hero, that he served with honor and distinction. Those were Susan Rice's words. That's the problem that some of his soldiers, fellow soldiers, have.
Took him a while to get to the point, didn't it? But that was not the bite I had intended to bring up, and we're going to get around to the Bergdahl thing with the congressman in a minute. But Congressman Blackburn, let's go ahead and talk about the new EPA plan and the carbon caps. And one thing that gets me about it is that even if we do everything our government wants to do, China already is putting out twice as much bad stuff in the air as we are.
Well, that's exactly right. And what the EPA is doing, they have a 645-page rule, which basically is a cap-and-trade proposal. And their goal is to reduce carbon emissions by 30%. See, they would like for us to be back to where we were, you know, in the late 1800s, early 1900s. That would be their goal. Now, what it is expected to do is to cost our economy, our output, well over $250 billion a year, and cost us over 250,000 jobs. Now, that is what we're looking at, and those aren't Marsha numbers. These are numbers that are coming from the CBO and from the Chamber of Commerce when they look at this rule and try to estimate what the impact is going to be. And if you're listening to my constituents in Tennessee, absolutely you're going to hear that. You know, we heard as much about the EPA last week as we did about Obamacare and Bergdahl and the VA situations.
Representative Blackburn, tell me about what this means to your constituents, Americans across the country, and their energy bills, their utilities at home, their transportation to work. What does it mean? Well, it's going to mean higher cost. And this basically is a tax then. Because you are looking at government mandates and rules and regulations that are significantly increasing your out-of-pocket. Right now, if you look at the cost of regulations on a family of four, the average family of four has $15,000 a year coming out of their family budget just to pay for the cost of regulations. Now, one of the things that is significant about this is more than what they're spending on food, clothing, health care, education, and other necessities, and that's just from the impact of federal regulations. The president said that electric power costs would necessarily, not probably or maybe, but necessarily skyrocket under his proposals. And that is because he's wanting to go away from carbon fuels and go to all the alternatives.
Right. Well, yeah, well, two points come up to me, Representative Blackburn. Well, the first is that in 2012, we had U.S. carbon emissions go down to 20-year lows not seen since 1992, not because of some government order, but just because in the free market, nat gas got cheaper than coal. Utilities switched away from coal over to nat gas, and so our carbon emissions went down. We didn't even need a government order. But the other thing is that, you know, President Obama's own Democratic Party and Congress refused to go along with cap and trade. And if you don't mind, I'll just tell those who don't know, this is the idea that once government sets a cap and says you can't pollute any more than this, you then create a credit, a piece of paper that you can sell to someone who needs to pollute more, and then that piece of paper has value and it trades, and then Wall Street bankers make money, and then the government makes taxes. But basically it's created because government capped it to begin with. Now, the Democrats in Congress wouldn't do this, but now isn't the EPA, Congressman, basically trying to get the states to do what Congress wouldn't do?
Well, absolutely they are.
Yep.
And still the person that is paying the bill is going to be those that are filling up their car and those that are turning the lights on at your house. And what the EPA has done is to establish something that is called beyond the fence options. And this is a way, what they're trying to do with the states is say, okay, we're going to give you some flexibility in order to meet the new standard. Therefore, we're going to do these beyond the fence options. And that will allow you to go out here beyond the fence or beyond your border and look at other sources. So what they're doing now is it's too broad. It's going to cause all sorts of problems because then how is Tennessee going to regulate something in Kentucky?
Exactly.
Or down in Alabama? You know, when you start getting past that border, you're talking about a state's ability to control what is within the borders where they are. In the Clean Air Act, and through the Clean Air Act, what they are seeking to do is, guess what? Put the EPA in charge of all of this. So they're saying, okay, states, we're going to give you all this flexibility. Well, then when the states can't do it, what are they going to do?
But that's where the problem is, in my mind anyway. I think of these huge pronouncements that come from this administration and how they then throw it to the states to actually implement it. I'm thinking of legalization of marijuana. I'm thinking of immigration reform. They don't act on their own. They just make a proclamation to make the states do it. It sounds like 50 ways for this to go wrong.
Oh, of course there are 50 ways for it to go wrong. And the goal, just like with Obamacare, the goal is to have the federal government in charge because the states supposedly make a mess of it. See, this is their goal.
That makes me laugh.
Well, but it's their goal.
Well,
this is the way they work.
There is an abiding belief by the imperial bureaucracy, I guess, for decades in Washington, but it seems especially in recent years that they know best, that they know what's best for America. We might have that soundbite number 6 now from EPA Administrator Gina McCarthy. No, we don't have that yet. So let me just continue from there. I'm kind of surprised that the Obama administration, Congressman Blackburn, would go after this EPA fight right now when you would think they have enough troubles on their hands, what with the prisoner swap and other matters.
You know, I've decided that what they do is try to get so many things messed up at the same time that it's just more than you can say grace over. And I really think this is their way. They can meddle in more things. And just think about the headlines from last week. You had the VA. You had the EPA. You had all of this mess up again with healthcare.gov and Obamacare. You have the Bergdahl situation. I mean, you can't make all this stuff up. They have more things going on. They had more jobs numbers that were out there. And did you hear one person talk about the labor force participation rate is still lower than it has been for 40 years?
Yes.
See,
yeah, no one's talking about that or noticing that. And I guess it's because a lot of people are just depressed out there.
Well, I think people are very fearful, quite frankly.
So, Ms. Blackburn, are they incompetent there in this administration? Are they trying to deliberately distract us? What do you think?
I got to tell you, I think that they are. The president said the goal was to transform this country. And I think that they are trying to change the way we have done business on any number of fronts. And they're very aggressive in going about and setting their agenda. You know, you've got the FCC trying to take over the internet. You've got the CFPB that makes it very difficult for people to get credit. You've got the FDIC making it very difficult for our banks. You've got the FDA that is giving headaches to so many people trying to get new healthcare protocols and pharmaceuticals to the marketplace. You know, the list goes on and on. We've talked about the EPA. You've got the IRS with their overreach. Government overreach is killing us.
Yes, and Representative Blackburn, it seems that we regular people outside the Beltway as all of these disputes come, you kind of look at a lot of it through the prism of, well, this is just party politics. It's bickering between the Republicans and the Democrats. But now let's go into that Bergdahl prisoner swap case. Originally, it looked like this would just become another Democrat versus Republican fight. Some Republican consultants warned that do not get on the other side of this. You're going to look bad, Republicans. You're going to look unpatriotic. Do you think that issue is now changing, is going beyond party lines?
Oh, absolutely. It was beyond party lines on day one, hour one. People are incensed with this. The president and his team broke the law. This is a law. It wasn't a suggestion. We don't send suggestions to Capitol Hill so he can pull one out of a box and decide what he wants to do that day.
And when you have Senator Dianne Feinstein, a Democrat in the U.S. Senate, speaking out so harshly and immediately against it, some people say Foreign Relations Chairman. Some people say this backlash caught the president by surprise. Do you think it did?
I think it probably did, because they repeatedly make it up as they go along. Look how they did it on Obamacare. They've done it on so many different things. And this is something that offended so many people. It was a blatant. See, here's the deal, I think. There was quite a bit of discussion with how to go about this process of either certification or notification or both when someone was going to be released from Gitmo. Well, this president did not want both certification and notification. Certification that the terrorist would not go back to the fight. Right. So the nuanced or compromised position was that you would have notification provided 30 days in advance, but the administration would not have to make that certification. So this was something that had been in the NDAA, the INDA, and great discussion about it at length. The president has spoken on this, and now all of a sudden you come in and the president said, well, I really didn't like that anyway, and I tried to get rid of it, and
I just went around it. Yeah,
I just didn't do it.
That's kind of a modus operandi there. I think what we're seeing here, though, Rep. Blackburn, is here's what happens when you've been a president who's walked on water your entire administration. You're just adored by the mass media. Nobody ever calls you out on anything. And then suddenly, now you're getting in trouble, and you're so stunned and you're so startled all the time. How could they be mad at me? They've never been mad at me before.
That's right, because you have a lot of yes men telling you what they want you to know rather than what you need to know. And that is an incredibly dangerous position, I think, for anyone who holds the public trust.
Yeah,
because what
love.
has happened is the American people no longer trust this administration to do and make decisions that are going to be in the best interest of the American people.
Ms. Blackburn, we have about 30 seconds left. Let me just ask you, what do you think will happen when Bo Bergdahl comes back to the United States?
I don't know. And let me tell you, I think that as we go through these classified files, a lot of the pundits have been saying, what would you have done differently? Well, until members of Congress get these classified briefings and see this file, you can't answer that question. Yes. And I think the hypotheticals right now are a little bit of a dangerous place to go.
All right. Thank you so much for being with us today, Congressman Blackburn. We appreciate it very much. Good day.
Thank you.
And coming up next, the Malmsburg panel joins us once again. Don't miss this and make me have to hurt you.